Hey guys, it's Captain Forest here, and in today's exotic video, I'll be going over both these combatants to see who would win, more often than not in an equal stats situation, Jack from Jakanddaxter versus Spyro. Now before I start this video, please leave a like, comment down below, and give me your feedback, and of course subscribe for further content. Now, please check out the Coffee Shop Gang, they make awesome content, their links will be in the description. Also shouts to HQ Squad as well. Their links will be in the description too. Shouts to Korin, shouts to everyone else. Huge shout out to my boy Gravity. He was a huge help in the Spyro section. Much appreciated. And shout outs to my boy Kurai as well. He also helped me with some of the Jack stuff too. So this is actually a pretty interesting matchup. This is more of an exotic matchup. I am trying to cover some more verses, so I figured I'd bring you guys a bit of a mixture. But anyway, let's get right into meat and potatoes of things. For Jack, I'll be including his weapons, gears, and other abilities from Jack 1, Jack 2 and 3, and also I'll include Lost Frontier stuff as well. For Spyro, he will be a composite of classic Spyro stuff and Legend of Spyro. So with that being said, now let's go over what Jack is packing to the table. So Jack comes equipped with his morph gun, which comes with custom settings and various functions. Jack's morph gun has 4 functions. Each of these 4 functions have 3 different modifications. For example, his main bread and butter is his blaster, which is a long-range sniper rifle which fires an energy blast to target foes from a distance. Jack can spin around and spray rounds from his blaster to tag surrounding enemies. The second setting for his blaster is that the bullets he fires from his blaster ricochet off objects and his opponents. He can also apply this to his omnidirectional spraying to tag multiple opponents and to make it difficult for them to evade, since the blasts ricochet everywhere. His third setting is the gyro blaster, which shoots out a yellow drone which sprays the area with energy bullets. His second gun mod is the scatter gun, which shoots a short widespread blast like a shotgun. His second function of the gun charges up energy, and then he releases the explosion, which causes an AoE to target multiple opponents. His third mod is a grenade launcher, which fires grenades which explode upon contact. Now his third gun mod is the Vulcan Fury, which is a minigun which fires a rapid volley of energy pellets to overwhelm his foes. The second function to the mod allows Jack to fire a stream of lightning like a flamethrower, and the third function fires blue energy beams which home in on the opponents. The last gun mod for his morph gun is his Peacemaker, which is a charged up ball of energy that explodes on contact and continues to bombard and harm the enemy. The energy also spreads to nearby enemies when one person or object gets tagged by it, which is pretty impressive. The second function of the gun, which is the mass inverter, shoots out an area effect of antimatter which paralyzes and causes the objects and people to float, leaving them completely defenseless and vulnerable. And last but not least, the third gun mod, called the Supernova, where Jack fires a nuke from his gun and it lands and causes a nuclear explosion, vaporizing anything that's nearby. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Lost Frontier, talk about his other weapon as well, which is the pretty cool staff that he carries, which is like a gun in a way. So let's go ahead and cover what that's packing. So Jack has the ability to use eco powers relying on the 4 primary types of eco. Red eco, which is used for the eco amplifier power to create a floating orb which explodes when shot. Green eco, which is used for the eco construct power to create crystalline structures to damage enemies and create platforms to reach distant areas, as well as the eco shield power, which can also be used to create an impenetrable shield that allows the ability of walking over pools of dark eco. He can also life siphon and recover health in battle when fighting enemies. Yellow eco, which is used for the eco rocket jump power to launch oneself into the air to great heights when using it above a yellow eco vent or clouds of gas. And lastly, blue eco, which is used for the eco reflexes power to slow down time, allowing Jack's spin kicks to reflect projectiles, and eco teleport to switch places with specific precursor totems and reach faraway places, as well as bypassing security. Eco powers are only received from precursor idols and have a limited amount of uses. Each power drains eco and requires a minimum amount before it can be used, though eco does not have to be collected, and instead it actually recharges automatically. So that's going to round up Jack's main nasty gear. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Jack's forms, starting off with Dark Jack. Jack can activate this form at any time. While he becomes Dark Jack, he is virtually invulnerable to conventional attacks. Dark Jack can shoot out a dark energy blast when he attacks, and he can shoot out lightning, which is very impressive. He can also perform the Dark Strike, where he charges up a ball of dark eco and shoots it at his opponents. Dark Jack can also double up in size via Dark Giant. Dark Jack can also use Dark Blast Spin and spread dark energy around, tagging multiple enemies. And lastly, Dark Jack can perform the Dark Bomb, which when he slams the ground, which causes a massive AoE of dark energy to hit multiple opponents, and Dark Jack can also turn invisible too to sneak up on his opponents. Now moving on to Light Jack. Flash Freeze is an ability that Light Jack uses to stop time. Light Jack can use light regeneration, which freezes time, and it also heals his wounds. Light Jack can also use Light Shield, which permeates around him for protection, and Light Jack can also use Light Flight in order to fly to high places, which is very impressive. Okay, so that's going to round up Jack. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Spyro. So starting off with Spyro's basics, we have his horn attacks. What Spyro essentially does is that he lowers his head and rams into his opponents with his horns. He can perform the head bash, which is Spyro's version of the ground and pound, where Spyro leaps into the air and charges straight down with his horns. Keeping on to the theme with physical abilities, but unrelated to his horns, Spyro also has his wing shield, which when used, it can deflect enemy projectiles. Spyro also learnt Jakanddaxter, an ancient martial art that was needed to injure enemies in the Shadow Realm who were impervious to Spyro's other attacks. The strongest of them are the Jakanddaxter chi attacks, which are used to pierce the shields of stronger shadow enemies. Now onto what Spyro is truly known for, his elemental control. Of course, he has his standard fire breath. In The Legend of Spyro, Spyro gains the ability to let off fireballs, no power-ups required. When fully upgraded, the fireball, after initial impact, will release several smaller fireballs at his opponents. Spyro can also infuse his fire into his charge, resulting in a Comet Dash, but by far the most powerful of his fire abilities is the Fire Fury. Cloaking himself in fire, Spyro lets off a massive fiery explosion along with many fireballs which shoot out upon final detonation. Now onto something a bit more cooler. Spyro has access to his ice breath. Spyro fires a stream of ice that freezes his enemies on contact. He has the Polar Bomb, an orb of ice that Spyro can charge, then also lob at his opponents, exploding upon impact. He can fire ice shards, which when fully upgraded, each shard can ricochet up to 4 times. He can also use the Ice Tail move, where he coats his tail in ice, then does a spin attack. He can use the Snowstorm move. Spyro spins, creating an icy cyclone, where he shoots off ice shards as he spins. Spyro's most powerful ice move is the Ice Fury, in which there is 2 variations. Spyro becomes cloaked in ice with ice shards. The orb around him explodes, sending a shockwave of ice and a barrage of ice shards upon detonation. Now onto something a bit more shocking. Spyro can fire lightning. In Dawn of the Dragon, his lightning breath is mentioned to disarm enemies and break shields physically, if I recall right, as well as the slightly different variation in a form of a stream rather than a shotgun-like blast. He can also use his electric arc, where he launches 4 orbs of lightning, then hones in on his enemies. He can use the electric whirlwind, where he spins around on his tail while cloaked in lightning. He can use the electric orb, where Spyro launches an orb of lightning, exploding after a short time. Spyro can also charge his move, being fully capable of moving during this time, as well as using it as a shield. The orb gets more powerful the longer it's charged. He can use the electric sphere. Spyro cloaks himself in lightning, shielding himself and damaging enemies that come near. His most powerful lightning move is his electric fury. Spyro cloaks himself in an orb of lightning and sends off an explosive shockwave of lightning. Now for the last normal element, something more down to earth. Spyro can fire blasts of earth energy in a more shotgun manner than other moves. Spyro can also use the earth bomb, where he lobs a ball of earth energy and upon impact it explodes into a twister capable of lifting enemies. Spyro can also use the earth flail, where he makes a flare out of earth energy, allowing him to whip it around and slam into enemies and objects. Spyro can use the earth pound. Spyro raises into the air and slams down while utilizing earth energy, causing a ripple to occur across the ground in a quite comical manner. Spyro can use earth boulder. He forms a ball of earth around him, allowing him to roll around, and he can charge forward with it. Boosted by him spinning in place beforehand makes the spikes grow larger. Spyro can use the earth missiles, which upon impact splits into several smaller missiles, which also explode upon another contact. Now for his most powerful earth move, his Earth Fury. Once again, there is two variations, and again I will go over the variations of Eternal Night. So Spyro cloaks himself in earth energy, then causes a massive explosion, sending multiple explosive waves as a result. Now it's time for the ultimate of Spyro powers, the power of Aether, and Spyro has access to both aspects, the light and the dark. Light Aether allows Spyro to open a portal, out of which comes many heads of Spyro, which hone in on the enemy. Each head passes through the enemy several times, exploding with each pass. Light Aether is able to pierce energy shields of Dark Aether, which none of Spyro's other abilities could do. Spyro can either fire Light Aether via a beam or ultimate moves, but when the purple dragon is pushed to his limits, he turns to the more destructive side, which is the Dark Aether. He can fire it into a beam. With his Dark Aether Fury, Spyro causes a Dark Aether Storm. He forms a ball of Dark Aether around him and then lets off a massive explosion with multiple follow-ups. Now for the effects. Lead concept artist Garrett Pullen states that the Dark Aether dismantles targets at an atomic level. Dark Aether also can turn opponents to stone, mainly his Dark Aether Fury. With Aether out the way, onto miscellaneous stuff. So Spyro, he's able to fly, he's able to bring time to a near stop. If in a time of need where he needs to truly protect himself, Spyro can use a Time Fury, encasing himself in a time crystal, protecting him but locking him until something hits it after. There's also a statement from the chronicler: the purple dragon can wield many abilities that others cannot, including time itself. He's also learnt to master this ability, and you would be able to see things almost before they happen, but use this gift sparingly, only when circumstances demand. Manipulation of time is not to be done without the utmost care. Spyro has some toon physics with his body in the classic games, and he's able to be squashed and get up right afterwards. Okay, so that's going to round up Spyro. I'm going to go ahead and move on to this matchup to see who would win, more often not an equal stats situation, Jak or Spyro. Okay, so let's break this fight down to see who would win, more often not in an equal stats situation. So Jak and Spyro have tons of win cons. So Jak, with his morph gun, he has tons of ways to potentially take victory. He has different mod settings. I think the biggest one that is a threat to Spyro is the Mass Inventor. If that, like gravitational manipulation, if that thing tags Spyro, I really don't see what Spyro can do. That's going to be a one shot if that does occur. But in character, I see him starting off with the first blaster, which is his sniper mod, where he'll start using the yellow eco bullets, and of course with the droid that could also be an issue. His shotgun, his explosive weapons could also help too. Definitely the time manipulation too. Now the time manipulation stuff, that's pretty interesting. Both can stop time or slow it down. They'd both be able to counter each other if they performed their time stop abilities. That'd be pretty interesting. But if it just came down to like just standard like conventional means, especially with Spyro with his different types of breaths, like his fire breath, his ice breath, his earth breath, and other types of other abilities he's performed, I think Jak would be fine against some of the other conventional breaths. The biggest issue I think Jack would have against is the Dark Aether stuff. Like if he does piss off Spyro and Spyro uses Dark Aether stuff, that's going to completely neg Jack. Even with the shields won't protect Jack very well, especially if it comes to like petrification or the atomizing breath and the beam that comes from Spyro. So the shield will be able to basically take the petrification, but then Jack has to deal with a wide spread of this petrification, like flame, this giant beam. That's going to be an issue. So I think if that does tag Jack, it's pretty much GG. But I think if the Masked Inventor or the Supernova, if that touches Spyro, that also be a GG. But of course Spyro does have mobility, so that could help him too. So he could fly away from some of the other nasty weapons and axes. But if it comes down to Jack's other forms like Light Jack, if Light Jack gets time stop off, I think it actually just stops time. It doesn't just slow it down. That could be a huge issue for Spyro potentially. But I think Spyro has some stuff for time manipulation as well. So I think they'd be able to counter each other out in that department. It just depends on who gets it off first and who was more likely willing to do it in character. So that could be an interesting point for you guys to come up with. But with Jack, with his Light Jack abilities, especially with his own shield, if that comes into play, that could protect him. But of course Spyro does have ways to get around the shield. He has his breaths, he has some other types of other abilities which can help him pierce through shields. So that could be an issue for Light Jack. But if it comes down to Dark Jack, that could also help him with the invulnerability, especially with the Dark Eco and the Dark Lightning, and the invisibility could also help too. But I do think that the issue here is that I don't really see what Jack can do if it came down to other things that kind of like, for example, like, you know, like Ice Breath, that kind of goes against like it's not just normal like conventional stuff. Like it freezes your whole body, including your organs. I don't really see like anything for Jack in terms of like any resistances in terms of cold. So that could be an issue that could slow him down. It just depends on the scenarios and how you break it down, because there's a laundry list of win cons both combatants could use in character. But if it came down to it, more often not, in my opinion and my interpretation and seeing things more often not happening in character, I have to lean more so with Spyro with high difficulty. The reasons why I lean a little bit more with Spyro is just that Jack is kind of limited in the resistance department. I don't really see what he can do against the petrification breath, especially with that giant like widespread. That could be an issue. And even if Jack puts up a shield, it's like the shield's gonna get petrified, and Jack's not gonna know what's going on around him. So even if he busts out of it, you know, what's stopping Spyro from spamming more of that stuff? That could be a huge issue, especially if he pisses him off. But I think he'd do fine against some of the other conventional breaths. The shield would be fine, especially with his own weaponry. But I do think that if the Masked Inventor comes in and Spyro's not careful and he gets tagged by the Masked Inventor, then Jack could definitely take victory. That one shot Spyro's literally going to be an inept dragon. He's not going to know what to do. He's literally frozen and stuck. So in my opinion, I just lean a little bit more so with Spyro. I don't think this fight's a stomp per se. I think it's very close. It just depends on how you go about the interpretations and what they would use more often not in character. But yes guys, thank you for watching. Again, let me hear your thoughts down in the comment section. But yeah, it's been real. I'll see you guys in the next one.